Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
You've been watching the Blue Jays load up on pitching this offseason, and yeah, it's exciting, but let's be real. You're sitting there wondering when Kyle Tucker is actually going to make a decision because this thing has been dragging on forever. Well, we just got some fresh updates from insiders that might finally give us a timeline on when this whole saga wraps up. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what's happening behind the scenes right now. What's going on, everybody? And welcome back. Today we're breaking down the latest on Kyle Tucker, what his camp is doing this week, where the Blue Jays stand in all of this, and why the waiting game might actually be working in Toronto's favor, even though it's driving everyone absolutely crazy. Stick around because I'm also giving you my prediction on exactly when I think he signs and what that means for the rest of the offseason. Before we jump in, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, because we're covering every single development as it happens and you don't want to miss anything. So here's what we know right now. Shi Davidi came on Sportsnet 590 earlier this week and dropped some information that gives us a clearer picture of what Tucker's timeline looks like. According to Davidi, Tucker is expected to meet with other interested teams this week, and once those meetings wrap up, his market should start moving forward from there. Now remember, the Blue Jays already had their meeting with Tucker a few weeks back down in the Dominican Republic. That was the first team he sat down with, and it absolutely exploded online because Toronto had been linked as the favorites, and then suddenly he's actually visiting them in person. Everyone freaked out like it meant something definitive. But I said it back then, and I'll say it again. This is standard procedure. He was always going to meet with multiple teams. That's how free agency works when you're a player of his caliber. So now we're in the phase where he's taking those other meetings, hearing what else is out there, and figuring out what his options really are. John Morosi also chimed in on MLB Network and basically confirmed the same thing. Tucker's meeting with teams, a decision could be coming soon, and the Blue Jays are going to be involved right until the very end. That makes sense because if Toronto has the most money on the table, they're naturally going to remain in the conversation no matter what. Morosi also mentioned he doesn't expect the Jays to land both Tucker and Bregman, which is a whole separate discussion. But the key part of what he said is that we should get a clearer picture of who the real contenders are within the next 48 to 72 hours. He said that Monday, and as I'm recording this, we're right at that window. So by the time you're watching this, we might already have more information about which teams are still seriously in play. Here's where it gets interesting, though. There's been some buzz suggesting that teams aren't actually coming close to the money Tucker's asking for. Now, I saw this from a source I'm not super familiar with, so take it with a grain of salt. But the general idea aligns with other things we've been hearing. The word is that other teams aren't viewing Tucker as a $400 million player, whether that's because of injury concerns or market dynamics or whatever. The fact is that massive number Toronto might have been willing to throw at him doesn't seem to have competition. And if you're the Blue Jays front office, that changes your strategy completely. Think about it from their perspective. If nobody else is offering anywhere near $400 million, why would you immediately go to that number? You'd be bidding against yourself. The smart play is to wait, let Tucker's camp realize that the market isn't what they thought it was, and then come in with something in the 325 to 350 range that still blows everyone else out of the water but saves you $50 million or more. That's just good business. But here's the risk. If you wait too long, you open the door for a team like the Dodgers to swoop in with a completely different kind of offer. We've heard they might be interested in a shorter term, high average annual value deal. If they come in with something like 2 years at $50 million per year, that's more annual money than the $40 million AAV Tucker reportedly wants on a long-term deal. And it gives him the flexibility to hit free agency again in a couple of years while he's still in his prime. That's attractive for a player, and it's the exact kind of creative contract the Dodgers love to do. So right now, the Blue Jays are playing a bit of a cat and mouse game. They're waiting to see what other offers materialize, trying not to overpay if they don't have to, but also staying ready to jump in with that big number if someone like the Dodgers starts getting serious with a different structure. It's actually a fascinating position for Toronto to be in because, for once, they have leverage. Usually in these superstar free agent pursuits, the player holds all the cards. and teams are just trying to outbid each other. But in this case, the Blue Jays have the financial firepower that most teams don't, and the willingness to spend that other big market teams aren't showing right now. That's a huge advantage, even if it doesn't feel like it when you're sitting around waiting for news. Now, the question everyone wants answered is, when does this actually get resolved? My honest prediction is that it probably doesn't happen before Christmas. I know that's frustrating to hear because a lot of big-name free agents in recent years have signed before the holidays. Juan Soto signed before Christmas. Shohei Ohtani signed before Christmas. But those situations were different. Those were cases where multiple teams were throwing max offers at a guy, and it was just a matter of picking the highest bidder. Tucker's market is developing differently. He's weighing a potential mega deal from Toronto against the possibility of a shorter, higher AAV deal from somewhere like LA. That's a bigger decision that requires more time to process. I could see it stretching into the weekend before Christmas if things move quickly after these meetings, but I think it's more likely we're looking at sometime after the holiday, maybe even into early January. Remember, we've seen this before. Bryce Harper didn't sign until late February. Manny Machado took forever. When the market doesn't develop the way a player's camp expects, these things can drag out. Now, I don't think Tucker takes until February, but the idea that it might go past New Year's isn't crazy. And honestly, if you're a Blue Jays fan, that delay might actually be a good thing because it suggests the market isn't running away from them and they're in position to get a better deal than they might have had to pay a month ago. Let's say Toronto does land Tucker. What does that mean for the rest of the offseason? In my opinion, they'd basically be done. Look at the roster right now. If Tucker signs, your outfield is set with him, Springer, and whoever else you slot in. Your infield is loaded. Your starting rotation just added 2 quality arms. The bullpen got upgraded. At that point, what else do you really need? You could argue they should still pursue Bregman, but only if the price drops significantly. And even then, it's not a necessity. You could say they should add another late-inning reliever, but they just paid Jeff Hoffman to be their closer, and they've got other pieces in place. The reality is that if they get Tucker, this offseason would be a massive success. You'd have landed the top position player on the market, added serious pitching depth, and set yourself up to compete immediately. The waiting is brutal, I know. We all want answers yesterday. But the way this is playing out might actually be the best case scenario for Toronto. They're in the driver's seat financially. Other teams aren't pushing the price to insane levels, and Tucker is going through the process of realizing what his actual market value is. When it all shakes out, the Blue Jays should be in excellent position to close the deal, and when they do, this roster is going to look dramatically different than it did a few months ago. So keep an eye on the next few days for clarity on which teams are still seriously involved. Watch for any reports about what kind of offers are actually on the table, and get ready for this thing to potentially stretch a bit longer than we hoped, but with good reason. The Blue Jays are playing this smart, and if it results in landing Kyle Tucker without massively overpaying, the patience will have been worth it. All right, that's the latest on where things stand with Kyle Tucker and what it all means for Toronto's offseason. Drop a comment below with your prediction on where he ends up and when you think it happens. Hit that like button if you found this breakdown helpful, and make sure you're subscribed because we're tracking every development as it comes in. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.